Hello there, I hope everybody's doing great. As last week saw a new class come to the channel in the form of the Brute Reiner, I thought why not keep that up. And so I welcome you to my brand new Azalea Commoner deck. She got some new toys in Outsiders, even for Commoner, and I like new toys. So obviously I had to make a deck with her at some point. The game plan of this deck is to go tall rather than wide and use Azalea as often as we can with as little risk as possible. Basically, we will opt a lot to see if total domination is in our future. I opted to go with 24 attacks, all of which are arrows, 12 attack buffs, and the remaining 4 cards are purely for top deck manipulation. While our average cost is 0.4, our average pitch value is 1.6, but we do need those resources to activate Barbed Castaway, for example. In total, our distribution looks like this. We have 24 reds, 8 yellows and 8 blues. With all those stats out of the way, let's see how many real-life resources this deck actually requires. Barbed Castaway and Crow's Nest are still only available in cold foil on Card Market for some reason, so they are not included. In total, this deck will cost us an incredible €3.43. Well, maybe add 10 cents on top for the missing cards, so let's say €3.53 just to be safe. Now on to our hero Azalea. In terms of stats, she has the same as almost every other hero. I think from now on I will refrain from even mentioning those unless a hero has more or less than the average. Azalea's ability though essentially makes her Bravo with a twist. We can activate her once per turn to put a card from Arsenal on the bottom of our deck. We then put the top card of our deck face up into Arsenal. If we manage to get an arrow there, it gains Dominate until end of turn. Go again. While Ranger attacks don't hit as hard as Guardian attacks, they are a lot less resource heavy and can easily be pumped into oblivion. Seeing as arrows can only be played from Arsenal, we need a more reliable way to put them there than just the end of our turn. Our bow will of course remedy that problem. Barbed Undertow has 2 once per turn instants. The first one lets us put an arrow from our hand face up into Arsenal for the cost of 1 resource. The other instant costs 1 resource as well, but lets us turn a face down arrow card in our arsenal face up and put an aim counter on it. Since quivers are brand new, there's only one Azalea specialized quiver she can use, Crow's Nest. Whenever we put an arrow card from our deck face up into arsenal, we may pay 1 resource to put an aim counter on it. While we only run 4 arrows that use aim counters in this deck, it's still a nice ability to have. Regarding equipment. In our head slot we have Wayfinder's Crest. It provides 1 armor and has Blade Break. When we defend with it, we can take a look at target hero's top deck. Of course we're going to pick our Azalea. Toxic Tips also has 1 armor and Blade Break. For 1 resource and destroying it, our next attack action gains. When this hits a hero, create a Frailty, Inertia or Bloodrot Pox token under their control. Go again. Deep Blue will help us out in case a hand is a bit too red for our liking. It generates 3 resources if we destroy it and put a card from our hand on the bottom of our deck. Go again. In this list, Snapdragon Scalars can give any of our attacks go again as an attack reaction if we destroy them. If you feel like 1 additional armor can make or break your match, you can simply switch them out for Iron Rod legs. And lastly, we want to hit the magical 3AB. To get there, we have Bull's Eye Bracers. If we destroy them and have no cards in Arsenal, we can put an arrow card from our hand face up into Arsenal and it even gains +1 attack until end of turn. Go again. Of course it has Arcane Barrier 1. And then, what else? We have Nulrune Hood and Boots. On to the deck. I will sort the cards by, for the lack of a better word, the roles they are supposed to play. Let's start this off with top deck manipulation, as this is the synergy we need with Azalea in order to give our big arrows Dominate. We play all colors of Read the Glide Path. It buffs our next arrow by 3, 2 or 1, but all versions allow us to opt 1. Do we have a nice arrow on top? Keep it. If not, get it to the bottom. We also play all colors of Ridge Rider Shot. It deals 4, 3 or 2 damage, and if it's put into Arsenal face up, we get to opt 1. While the red version can also be played, no problem, the yellow and blue versions are more likely to be used for the opt effect and then swap them with Azalea, or just to pitch. Scout the periphery lets us take a look at the top card of any hero's deck, but of course it will be ours. While we can put the card on the bottom, we still get the information whether we should activate Azalea or not. As a small side effect, it will also make our next attack from Arsenal deal 3 additional damage. One of my favorite cards in this deck, mainly because it's one of those rarely played cards, has to be the yellow Memorial Ground. It lets us put target attack action card with cost 1 or less from our graveyard on top of our deck. Have you played your strongest attacks already? Well, just play them again. Or if you draw it too early, just use it to pitch for 2, no problem. The only downside is that it has no block value, because it's an instant. And then there's the blue Whisper of the Oracle, which lets us opt for 2. I feel opt 2 is enough, and in case we need that more, we get 3 resources out of it. A fair trade-off, I think. As we already covered most of the buffs in the previous segment, let's get the remaining 2 out of the way. Overflex gives our next arrow +4 attack at the cost of 1 resource. In addition to that, it also has reload, meaning that if there's no card in our arsenal, we may put any card from our hand into it, face down. The other remaining buff is Point the Tip. It buffs target face-up arrow in our arsenal by 3, and we get to put an aim counter on it as well. The arrows that like buffs the most are, of course, those with on-hit effects. Searing Shot is the only 0-cost on-hit arrow. It deals 4 damage, and if it hits, our opponent loses 1 life. So far, I don't think there's a single way to prevent this loss of life, which can turn this into a powerful threat late in the game. Fatigue Shot, Hamstring Shot and Infecting Shot all cost 1 resource and attack for 5. If Fatigue Shot hits, it halves the base damage of the first attack our opponent plays on their turn rounded up. Hamstring Shot makes the first attack on their turn cost 1 additional resource if it hits, and Infecting Shot gives them a Bloodrot Pox token on hit. But it also gains +1 attack if it has an aim counter on it. Just a nice little bonus. For our last segment we have self-buffing arrows. Well, for the first one, just pretend like it actually buffs itself. Falcon Wing deals 3 damage and has Go Again. Like Infecting Shot, it gains +1 attack if it has an aim counter on it. And for truly self-buffing cards, we have the red Headshot and all colors of Widowmaker, another one of my favorites. Headshot deals 4 damage, but if it's put into Arsenal face up, it gains an additional 2 attack until end of turn. Widowmaker attacks for either 4, 3 or 2, and attack reactions can't be played to its chain link. If it's defended by less than 2 cards, it deals 3 additional damage. I chose all colors of Widowmaker over Headshot because the blue Headshot, for example, can be blocked by a single Sink Below or by a single 3 block card and our opponent only takes 1 damage. But not only can our opponent not even use Sink Below against Widowmaker, if they were to block it with a 3 block card, they still take at least 2 damage. And even in the quote-unquote worst case scenario of a full block, we still take 2 cards either out of their hand or out of their equipment. And I just love to get rid of our opponent's cards. And that's one more in the books, folks. Remember to like and subscribe if you like what you see, because there will be a lot more budget decks of all kinds of formats coming your way. But for now, take care of yourselves and I will see you in the next video.